There comes a moment in every man's life when silence feels like the only weapon left. When the woman you care about is pulled away, drifted off, or replaced you emotionally, or even physically. Many men believe that going quiet will somehow pull her back. They think that their absence will echo loudly enough for her to feel the void. But here's the brutal truth. If she is already detached, your silence has no impact on her at all. Not because you don't matter, not because you are insignificant, but because her emotional connection to you is already fading long before you decided to withdraw. Silence only works on someone who still feels your presence, who still values your attention, who still remembers what it felt like to be chosen by you. But when a woman has mentally checked out, when she has emotionally replaced you, whether with another man with distractions or simply with her own newfound independence, your silence doesn't hurt her, it only frees her. And this is why so many men are shocked. They expect her to notice the distance, to miss their presence, to question their withdrawal. Instead, she carries on. She smiles without hesitation. She posts stories without hesitation. She moves forward with a sense of ease that cuts deep. And when you see her giving affection, attention, or intimacy to someone else, a new man who occupies the space you once held, your silence suddenly feels like a punishment only you experience. And the more you expect her chase, the more you wait for the moment she realizes what she lost, the more painful it becomes when no such moment arrives. Because the truth is that silence is not a strategy. It's a mirror. It shows you whether she cared in the first place. It reveals the emotional weight you truly had in her life. If you fall silent and she comes closer, it means you still had space in her heart. If you fall silent and she drifts further, it means she had already left long before you stopped speaking. But here's what most men don't realize. Women don't attach overnight. They detach slowly, quietly, softly. By the time she stops arguing with you, she has already stopped caring. By the time she stops asking where you are, she has already accepted your absence. By the time she stops expecting effort, she has already rebuilt herself without you. And by the time she physically moves on, she emotionally moved on months before. So when you finally decide to use silence as a tactic, you're already too late. You are trying to communicate with someone who no longer hears you. You are trying to influence someone who no longer thinks about your influence. You are trying to create a reaction inside a heart that no longer belongs to you. And this is why your silence has no impact. Not because silence is weak, but because it only works when there is still emotional tension between two people. Silence cannot shake someone who has already found peace without you. Silence cannot scare someone who already feels safer away from you. Silence cannot confuse someone who already made up her mind long ago. And when you see her smiling in another man's arms, the truth becomes even harder to swallow. It means she has found connection, excitement, or comfort in a place where your absence no longer matters. But instead of breaking yourself over what she feels, you must understand what the situation reveals about you. It shows you the areas where you depended too much on validation. It shows you the moments where you should have communicated instead of pulling away. It shows you the emotional gaps you ignored until they became unbearable for her. Many men don't lose women because they were bad partners. They lose them because they weren't present, consistent, or emotionally aware. Silence became the only thing left to give because they stopped giving what mattered long before. And when she eventually shifts her attention to someone who listens, someone who notices, someone who shows effort, it feels like betrayal. But in reality, it is a consequence of emotional neglect on both sides. Because you may have loved her, but love without expression becomes invisible. You may have cared, but care without action becomes meaningless. You may have wanted her, but wanting someone without showing effort becomes exhaustion for them. And when exhaustion builds long enough, detachment becomes the only escape. So what should you do now? Should you break the silence and try to win her back? Should you fight for her, chase her, convince her that you could be the man she once believed you were? No, because chasing someone who has already let go will only destroy your dignity. It won't mend anything. It will only deepen the wound. You must understand that silence is not meant to punish her. It is meant to reconnect you with yourself. You don't use silence to hurt someone else. You use silence to heal the parts of you that depended too heavily on another human being. You use silence to rebuild your identity, your strength, your emotional independence. Because the only reason her actions hurt so deeply is that you made her the center of your world. You place your happiness in her hands. And now that those hands hold someone else, it feels like you're left with nothing. But you are not nothing. You are simply rediscovering who you are without her influence. And this is where your power returns, not when she notices your silence, but when you stop caring whether she does or doesn't. Silence becomes powerful only when you use it for the right purpose: self-growth, clarity, and emotional evolution. The moment you stop waiting for her reaction is the moment your silence becomes meaningful. Because silence is not supposed to bring her back. It's supposed to bring you back. Back to your goals. Back to your standards. Back to your boundaries. Back to the version of yourself you abandoned while trying to keep someone else satisfied. And when you finally reach that place, when your silence is rooted in strength rather than pain, something shifts. You no longer ache when you see her with someone else. You no longer wonder what she's thinking. You no longer feel the need to be acknowledged, validated, or remembered. Instead, you become the man who understands that people who leave create space for people who stay. You become the man who realizes that losing her wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of finding yourself. And when you truly understand that, silence becomes the loudest message you will ever send. Not to her, but to yourself.